Okay, Mouse 1, Chapter 2. As we go, I'm going to constantly be stepping away from the text, talking about the literacy of the graphic novel, talking about how I am reading things like facial expressions, body language, the panel shape, the positioning of the panel, the lines of motion, all of those things beyond just the words, because that's what I'm asking you to eventually do. So, Chapter 2. Irony, speaking right off the bat, is one of our Quizlet terms. Irony, as you know from Mouse Unit Big Ideas, means when the opposite of what is expected occurs, or language that highlights the opposite meaning, like a rich man losing his wallet, cheating on an ethics test. What's the irony here? What is the concept of opposites? How does it apply to the words in the picture? I'm asking you to think about it, hence the pause, but clearly a honeymoon, the connotations or the things associated, the ideas and concepts associated with the honeymoon, connotation, another one of our terms. The connotation with the honeymoon is blissful, wonderful, joyous. Of course, the connotations, the association with the swastika, although they did appropriate it and steal it from Hindu. However, when the Nazis took it and literally twisted it and figuratively twisted some of the ideas, it's associated with evil and horror. So here is the ironic pairing of the honeymoon and the swastika. For the next few weeks, for the next few months, I went back to visit my father quite regularly to hear his story. About Mom, 11, 12, 13. What are you doing, Pop? I'm making into daily portions, my pills. 14, 15, 16. Gosh, so many. Yeah, 6 pills for the heart, 1 for diabetes, and maybe 25, 30 vitamins. For my condition, I must fight to save myself. Doctors, they only give me junk food. That's how I call prescription drugs now. I study this in my prevention magazines. Maybe you want to read. No thanks. But about Mom, did she have any boyfriends before she met you? Not romantic, but one, a tall boy from Warsaw. He was a communist. Even after the marriage, when the fellow came to Solstenwick, Anja always ran to see him. I didn't know, of course, that he was a communist. I always kept away from such communist peoples. A little while after we were married, I came home from a selling trip. Hey, Vladek, they just arrested the seamstress that lives down your hall. She had some communist secret documents. And I went upstairs. The police, they just arrested. What's the matter? The police were here, yeah, looking for Anja. But she just told us the boy from Warsaw brings communist messages. She translates them into German, passing them on. Anja was involved in conspirations? Again, body language, slapping his face, the lines of motion, showing his shock. A little before the police came, she, Anja, got from friends a telephone call. They suspect you. Hide the papers quickly, but they're important. Try not to destroy them. What to do? She ran to a seamstress, which was one of our tenants. Miss Stefanski, please, hide this package for me. Don't let anyone tell anyone about it. Anja was a good customer, so she agreed. The police went over our house, top to bottom. It was nothing to find, so they searched neighbors. Okay, how did you get this package? Oh, I never saw it before. One of my customers must have left it. Anja was safe, but the seamstress they arrested. Stepping away from the text, again, we are having this delicate balance of past and present, the past being the 30s and 40s, the Holocaust, the present being when Art was first going to his dad and talking. This is, 70s, 80s. How do you know when we're in the past or present on this page? Well, hopefully you can tell that some of the panels are without a border. Some have the border. The border, the past. It is done. It is written. It is confined to the past because it happened. The present we see as the panelist borders. Spiegelman always uses some sort of indication, a circular panel like we're zooming in on the past, a panel within a panel, walking, almost stepping through one panel into another. And in this case, the panelist border showing the present. It is unconfined. It is undefined. The panel, the border for the past. When I found out the story, I was ready to break the marriage. I told her, Anja, if you want me, you have to go my way. If you want your communist friends, then I can't stay in this house. And she was a good girl. And she, of course, stopped all such things. What happened to the seamstress? Miss Stefanski, sat in prison for a longer time, maybe 3 months. It wasn't enough evidence, and finally the police let her go. Father-in-law paid the cost of the lawyers and gave to her some money. It cost maybe 15,000 zlotys. That's a lot, huh? Yeah. But not only this, at the same time, he did even more for us. You know, Vladek, when you and Anja give me a grandchild, I want him to be well off. Well, I almost have enough from my sales trips to start a textile shop. A shop? Psh, you ought to have a textile factory. Oh, that would cost a fortune. Please, I can give you the money and plenty of credit. I started a factory in Bielsko and visited to Anja every weekend. Again, I like when he blacks out the characters. We saw him do this at the end of 1. All of a sudden they went black. Why? Again, how do you read it? Well, the importance is no longer with the characters. The importance is with the words. And if you remember, this was one of the things that's going to cause Art some guilt. He has a lot of guilt, I think, associated with this book. And one of them is, of course, writing in things that he promised he wouldn't do. So how do we know this is an important one? He blacked out the characters, right? Because the words have greater value. We see this method here as well, talking about the factory, that he's getting this factory. So I started a factory in Bielsko, visited Anja every weekend. So this was a big deal for him, and certainly part of the dowry, perhaps, that Anya's parents gave to Vladek. So he's very well off, very well off. By October 1937, the factory was going, and it was born my first son, Rishu. Stepping away from the text, notice no mention of Rishu. Rishu is Vladek and Anya's first child. In other words, Art's brother. But he's not been mentioned. Continuing, he's a big baby, over 3 kilos. My God, Anja only weighs 39. Of course, you never knew him, talking to his son. He, Rishu, didn't come out from the war. Yeah, I know. Stepping away from the text. Boy, they hit us with some big stuff, right? We know that his mother's suicide, that was like on panel 2. We now learn of a brother, a child of Anja and Vladek that, quote, didn't come out from the war. And he says, and it says, yes, I know, ... Once again, imagine this relationship growing up in a house where every little problem you have, you can't top your father's situation. Well, you got a bad grade? I survived Auschwitz. Your girlfriend dumped you? Well, I survived Auschwitz. Not that his father was purposely doing that, but clearly that was conveyed. Here, too, try being Art, living up to a picture of an older brother. We don't know when, but we know he didn't come out of the war. So if this is 37, war ended in 45, he was clearly a child. So if there are pictures of him around the house, that child never grows up. That child doesn't disappoint. That child doesn't spill milk on the rug. Art had to compete with this dead, perfect child of his. Think of how we idolize Marilyn Monroe. We never saw her age. We never saw her fall. Same thing when a parent loses a child, they look back in the framed pictures, right? Not that they shouldn't idealize that child. I mean, it is a horrible thing to do. But we're going to account for many atrocities here in the Holocaust, and I want you to think about the vast impact, certainly on Anja and Vladek losing a child, but also what it would be like for Art to grow up in such an environment. Stepping away and back into the story. Of course, you never knew Rishu. He didn't come out from the war. Yes, I know. But wait, if you were married in February and Rishu was born in October, was he premature? Yeah, a little. But you, after the war, when you were born, it was very premature. The doctors thought you wouldn't live. I found specialists. What saved you? We had to break your arm to take out from Anya's belly. And when you were a tiny baby, your arm always jumped up like so. We joked always and called you Hail Hitler. Always we pushed your arm down and oops! Ugh, look what you made me do. Me? Okay, I'll recount them later. No, you don't know counting pills. I'll do it after I'm an expert for such things. So Anja stayed with the family, and I went to live in Bielsko for my factory business and to find us an apartment. But soon it came from Sosnowiec a telephone. Vladek, come here. Come home. Anya's sick. She was crying as soon as I came in. What's wrong, darling? Oh, it doesn't matter, doesn't matter. But why are you crying? I don't know. I have a good family, a fine son. I should be happy. But I just don't care. I don't want to live. Again, the askew panel. Why is it askew? What does this reflect? How do you read it? Well, look at Anya's emotional state. Her emotional state is off. Her emotional state is rocked. She is off kilter, so the panel too is off kilter. Flashing back, we've seen Spiegelman employ this before, and I talked about it. It conveys the feeling of the character we are seeing, almost like the emotion of the character is so great, and she is so emotionally upset. The panel itself is off kilter, like the character is off kilter. We saw it here when Anja heard about the bad reputation and she was so upset about Vladek's old girlfriend. And we see it again on page 31 of chapter 2 from Mouse 1. Here, baby, drink this and rest. I don't understand what's the matter. Giving birth? It was too much of a strain. She's always hysterical or depressed. Oh, a breakdown. Now, stepping away from the text, they didn't have the medicine they do today. Back then, what do we call this now? When a woman has a child and they don't say that she's having a breakdown. Postpartum depression, right? The body, the mother's body, just was responsible for 2 lives in it. So the body kicks up. The chemicals are different because at one point it was supporting 2 lives, and then the birth happens, and very suddenly there's only 1 life in the body, and of course it takes a while for the body to readjust. Postpartum depression. Back then, they referred to it as a breakdown. Continuing on. The doctors told us about a sanitarium, or a place of rest, another one of your official terms that you need to know. But somebody must go with her, for someone she trusts. Everything's arranged. The child can stay here with the governess, and I'll watch your factory. So right away we went to sanitarium. It was inside Czechoslovakia, one of the most expensive and beautiful in the world. I remember when we almost arrived. We passed a small town. Oh, every Jew from the train got excited. Look! It was the beginning of 38, before the war. Hanging high in the center of the town was Nazi flag. Here was the first time, with my own eyes, I saw this swastika. 1938. I tell you, there's a pogrom going on in Germany today. Another one of your terms, pogrom, is essentially an organized massacre, often of Jewish people. So the most famous one is called the Night of Broken Glass, or Kristallnacht, when Jews were ravaged and beaten all across Germany. They would happen in little towns where on a given night, they would smash the Jewish-owned businesses or beat up Jewish people or even go into your house and drag you out and beat you, if not kill you. The horror of the pogrom certainly is the night of violence, but then imagine the next days when life, quote-unquote, returns to normal. You're walking into town, you're seeing the strangers, or you're seeing your, quote-unquote, neighbors, the people you lived with in the town, and you don't know if the night before they were one of the ones breaking glass and beating people, and the horror is you don't know if they're going to do it again. That is the horror of a pogrom. Clearly it's meant to terrorize, right? One fellow told us of his cousin what was living in Germany. Now, look at the aesthetic here. Look at how this is built. One of our terms, or the way in which a panel conveys information from the graphic novel packet, is a montage. So a montage panel officially claims or has words and pictures displayed pictorially. That is precisely what we see here. The Star of David, the Jew written on the door, the spotlight of the swastika behind. We have the sign that they're making him carry. And I love the background. As though there is nothing else there. There is no horizon. What is on the horizon? Just the spotlight on the Nazi flag that dominates all on the horizon. Talk about reading into something. You've got that here, the spray-painted Jewish windows. You can see the paint dripping off the graffiti. The way, the facial expressions, how they're laughing, and the body language, how they're beating them, and the spotlight that is almost looks like it's rising behind them as though there's nothing else that's important, that it is the spotlight on our viewpoint from now on, and that is the swastika, that is Nazis. What a way to convey it. What a way to read these panels. So, the one fellow tells us of his cousin what was living in Germany. We had to sell his business. He had to sell his business to a German and run out from the country without the money. They made him carry signs. They would make him cut their hair. They would torment them. It was very hard there for Jews. Terrible. Another fellow told us of a relative from Rodenburg. The police came to his house, and no one heard from him again. They would hang up these banners. This town is Jewish-free. It was many, many such stories. Synagogues burned, Jews beaten with no reason. Whole towns pushing out all Jews, each story worse than the other. Oh, let's hope those Nazi gangsters get thrown out of power. Yeah, just pray they don't start a war. The sanitarium was away from everything, so peaceful, so quiet. Look at how beautiful these gardens are, Anja. People came from all over the world with different sicknesses. It was even shops here. A theater, really beautiful. A room is like a luxury hotel. Look at this view. Each morning, nurses would come and visit Anja. And each day, I talked to the big specialist. Well, what did the doctor say? He told you you'd be fine. Just relax, relax. I understood much of such sicknesses, so I always to calm her down. I told her stories. Look, we got a letter from home today, with a photo of Rishu. Let me see. He's a handsome boy, just like his father. Oh, yes. In the evenings, we went either to the theater or to the dance in the cafe. Did I tell you the tragedy about the pillow my family lost at the start of the 1914 war? I was 7. We lived too close to the border. It wasn't safe. Again, look at the panel progression here. So there's a spotlight almost on Anja and Vladek. They have this true love, and slowly but surely, it's as though the people in the background fade from distance, fade from view, so that in the last panel, it is just them and their love that is highlighted. So he's telling her the story to cheer her up. His father had to move. They had to move from town. He says, I told her many jokes and stories to keep her busy. So we took what we could on a wagon pulled by 4 horses and went to my grandfather's home in Radomsko. Someone rode past us who told us that we dropped a pillow a few miles back. A guy traveling to Armstow picked it up. Imagine, my father never rode a horse before, but he unhitched one from the wagon and rode toward Armstow. We wanted to and waited. Mother started crying. Surely he fell and got killed. She'd begged him not to go, let the pillow go, and take all of our troubles with it. The horse was bony and didn't have a saddle. Finally, late that night, Father rode back with the pillow under his blood. He took us. So Father got his pillow back, but he couldn't sit down for the rest of the week. Or the rest of the war. Oh, I love you, Vladek. So, a bit of irony here. That's kind of funny. But clearly he's doing it because he loves her to get her mind off things. And she was so laughing and so happy, that she approached each time and kissed me. She was so happy. Clearly we got the spotlight of the swastika, knowing these times will end. We stayed maybe 3 months, and when we came back, Anja was completely different from when she left. Yoo-hoo, Papa. Anja, you look like a million. Listen, Vladek, I didn't want to tell you or make you worry while you were in the sanitarium, but now brace yourself. The Belasco factory was robbed. What? Yeah, it happened last month. They took everything. I didn't even have time to insure it before we left. Well, at least I can help you build it up again. So again, present, no panel border. Were you looted as part of some sort of anti-Semitic activity? I don't think so. This was just the robbery. You know, like when they robbed us in Rego Park here last year. Well, in Belasco, father-in-law helped us again to establish ourselves. Oh, shit, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. We were very happy still for over a year until August 24th, 1939. A letter from the government. A draft notice. I was in the Polish Reserves Army, and so I had to go right away. It was big confusion. Everyone knew it was war now. Quick, pack up everything. Your father will take you to Sosnowiec. Oh, Vladek, I'm afraid. Grab your knickknacks and the doll collection. Oh, they're not important. You'll see, you may enjoy them. I was right, you know. And when things went even a little worse, she was able to sell such things. So Anja and Rishu and the governess went in one direction to Sosnowiec, and I went in the other direction to the frontier against Germany. Look at the panels as though they are shaped. One going in one direction with a text on one side and one going the other, as the family splits. And on September 1st, 1939, the war came. I was on the front, one of the first to... So twice I spilled my drugstore, my eyes. Ever since I got left eye with the hemorrhaging and the glaucoma, it had been taken out from me. And now I don't see so well. And now I have a cataract inside my one good eye. Do you see how I suffer? I told you about the big shot specialist who was going to operate on me. He last year put me into hospital for an immediate operation and then just left me. He went somewhere go away on television for lectures. My eyes started so bleeding, I had to run out to find a different doctor, different hospital. There another specialist operated right away, otherwise I could have died. So, now it's a glass eye. He did a good job, no? One time, even a young doctor came to my bed there in the hospital. He looked at the light a long time in my eyes and told me, Mr. Spiegelman, your left eye is perfect, but your right eye is the cataracts. He didn't know, of course, the left eye was glass. I didn't tell him anything. I didn't want to make an embarrassment. He told me about that. That's it for today, yes. I'm tired, and so I must count my pills. Okay, good idea. Good idea. My hand is sore from writing all this down. And we conclude Mouse, Part 1, Chapter 2.